What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of your Mystro Weekly Industry Roundup, brought to you by Mystro and myself, Uberman from YouTube. We're going to jump right into this. Number one on my list, Uber and Lyft to offer some drivers shares in stock market listing. Now, this is pretty interesting, and this is a very lengthy article, so I am not going to really read through too much of it, but I am going to give you just the tidbits that are really the most important parts. Lyft plans to give drivers who have logged at least 10,000 rides on the platform $1,000 that can be kept as a cash bonus or used to buy the IPO shares. The plan is an effort to reward the longest serving and most active drivers who do not enjoy employee benefits such as health insurance and reimbursement for expenses. A driver who has completed 20,000 rides would be eligible for $10,000 in cash or an equivalent amount of stock, the source said. It was not clear how many drivers would qualify, but there is no cap on the program. Now, if we move over to Uber's program, the specifics aren't really all that lined out yet, but it says that the stock program will be much more complicated than Lyft's since it involves many more drivers and countries with different securities laws, and it will run into the millions of dollars, one of the sources said. For Uber, the cash bonuses will be doled out on a sliding scale based on the driver's length of service and number of trips or deliveries, this person also said. The target numbers and the cutoff date to meet those targets are still being worked out and will be set up prior to the IPO. Lyft is expecting to see a valuation between $20 and $25 billion, while Uber is seeking a valuation of around $120 billion. Number two on my list, Uber driver helps unconscious officer tracks suspect in Midvale. This is Midvale, Utah, folks. An Uber driver who was in the right place at the right time on Thursday decided to stop and help a unified police officer in trouble. The officer was knocked unconscious during a traffic stop for expired tags. That's crazy. You got expired plates, you knocked the police officer out for it. Okay. The Uber driver says he was driving in Midvale on Thursday morning in the neighborhood of Locust Street and California Drive when he saw an officer fighting another man. I witnessed it, so I'm like, I'm going to help this cop really quick, he said. He said that he could tell the officer was having a hard time getting the man into custody. He saw the officer get pushed, and then the officer was on the ground. He was really dazed, and I could tell he probably hit his head, the driver said. The Uber driver asked the officer if he was okay, and the officer told him to follow the guy. In an apartment complex nearby, the Uber driver kept his sights on the suspect. When more police got there, the Uber driver told them that he was in one particular building. The police went in, got him, and arrested him. The 25-year-old was arrested and booked into jail on suspicion of assault on a police officer, failure to stop for an officer, interfering with an arresting officer, possession of drug paraphernalia, and drug possession. Do you think the drugs had anything to do with him knocking out a cop over some expired plates? I don't know. Anyway, congratulations to the Uber driver. Shout out to you, brother. Good job. More people like you are needed in the world today, believe you me. Moving on, and number three on my list, this is one I highly recommend you go take a look at. Google Carpocalypse Now. Carpocalypse Now. Google that. It's from Business Insider. It is a really good read, but it's going to take you a few minutes to get through it. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of time, so I'm just going to get down to the nitty-gritty. And basically, the founders of Lyft are saying that we are in a carpocalypse right now. This is the end time for car ownership. And they seem to really believe this. Now, there is a lot of data that's been put together. There's a lot of graphs, a lot of charts. So that's why it's really important that, if you have the time, go and read this. But basically, from everything I've read, wow. So what we're seeing right now is a 60% decline in car sales in Turkey. Now, that's kind of to be expected, to be honest with you. In Europe, we're seeing a decline in car sales and manufacturing between 4 and 8%. We're seeing also retail sales in the United States are not doing so hot either. And when you combine that with the active car registrations, cars that are being registered or registrations being renewed, you see a huge dip in those graphs as well. It's definitely showing that car ownership is decreasing, and Lyft truly believes that more people are going to do away with car ownership because it is costing the average American around $30,000 to own a new car. And that is money that they claim Americans cannot afford, and it's cheaper to use rideshare, or in their case, they're really pushing Lyft, obviously. Now, while I do agree that it's much easier to push a button and get a ride, and it's probably going to be cheaper depending on where you go. I think that's the thing. If you're the person that typically, goes out a couple nights a week, you just need a ride to work and back, and you live close to work, sure, that could be a huge benefit. You don't have to worry about tags and insurance and maintenance. I mean, there's a lot of good things. Inspections, smog, a lot of good things about us, not owning a car. You can really save some money, but it really depends on what area do you live in, what are the prices, per minute, per mile where you live, and what's the cost of parking. In some places like San Francisco, New York City, yeah, it could be really expensive just to park your car. However, for someone like me that likes to go out and do things at my leisure when I want to, I may not have an Uber or a Lyft available at 3 o'clock in the morning should I decide I want to go take a drive around the lake. Car ownership is a big deal to me because for me, it is my independence. I do not wish to rely on somebody else to take me where I need to go because there may not be someone available. What if I need to drive to go visit my uncle or something in Indiana? Or what if I want to go see relatives in Kansas? It's really difficult to find an Uber or a Lyft up there, and a lot of people don't want to pay for an airplane ticket. My family in Kansas, for example, there's no airport near there. It's a good 40, 50-mile drive at a minimum from the airport. In Indiana, it's over an hour and a half away from the airport to where my family lives out there. So for me, that just doesn't work. And for those types of trips, I'd prefer driving anyway. So that's going to be it for the video. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Stay tuned because we will be back next Sunday for another edition of your Mystro Weekly Roundup. Until then, stay safe out there.